Hello, welcome to Boardgame TV. Hope you had a happy new year, happy holidays. I did. A busy one too. Now, first thing I like to do is I like to announce an apology. I know I said on New Year's Eve and New Year's Day the final two Touch of Evil games would be posted. And I recorded the videos and I tried to upload them, but YouTube, for some weird reason with the new COPPA thing, whatever, keeps wanting me to download them in a certain format, and because of that, they didn't download. They got deleted, and it really made me mad. And so I'm gonna have to refilm those and redo those again because they're gone. And it really made me mad. I had to take a little bit of a break from filming it because like I said, it really frustrated me. YouTube's getting really kind of frustrating with some of their stuff, but between having a family, especially a toddler, kids, other interests, and then seeing family during the holidays, I really haven't had a chance to upload much. So I'm sorry about that, and I'm sorry about the Touch of Evil thing. I am going to do that though. I do want to finish out that series. So I am going to work on that and have to redo it, but I do have other interests besides board games, and sometimes I get sidetracked with other things, but something's coming along in a couple weeks which will probably sidetrack me for a little bit, so I wanted to start getting this done and out of the way. But I am sorry about that, and I promise I will upload those. I've just been, busy with family, and then, it's hard to upload when you have to take care of a basically almost 2-year-old, and especially with special needs a little bit. And yeah, he doesn't understand what's going on, so, I'm Mr. Mom at this point sometimes, and I have to upload and do these videos when he's asleep or not at home, or he's out, at the store or something with his mother, or visiting his grandfather or something like that. But anyways, enough of my pity party. I do, however, wanted to do something I've been wanting to do for a while, and that was the Eldritch Horror campaign. We played through all the ancient ones. There were 16 of them on Eldritch Horror, and I do appreciate this game more and more every time I play it, although there's certain problems with it. And I really like it, and I never played the campaign. Now, the campaign was introduced in the last expansion, the Mask of Nyarlathotep, the campaign mode. And for the most part, it's actually pretty neat, but there's one big bugaboo with it that I'm going to go over in a second. And so this video is going to basically be the introduction to the campaign, explain the rules of the campaign, and go over our ancient one and our setup. Now, technically, if you want to do the campaign for Eldritch Horror, you have to have the Mask of Nyarlathotep expansion, because it tells you what Prelude cards you need to use, and it tells you have to use the personal story cards that came with the expansion. So I mean, if you could, get some files and maybe download them, you could use it. But if you're missing the Mask of Nyarlathotep expansion, you won't be able to do the campaign. So I just want to let you know that. Technically, you won't be able to do the campaign. There's always ways around everything. So the campaign is really easy. It basically says you pick 6 ancient ones. Now, the first 2 you pick have to be picked at random. Now, I like randomness, so I picked all of them at random. But if you, let's say, wanted to have to face Cthulhu somewhere in your campaign, you could pick him, but remember, the first 2 have to be random. And you can use any heroes you want. I'm using 3 heroes, and I pick them at random. Okay? So, but there's no restrictions on heroes. You can use whoever you want, whenever you want. So, you set up like a normal game, except you have to use the personal story card for each character. Okay? And in this case, I have Carson Sinclair, Daniela Reyes, and Father Mateo. And you have, like I said, you have to use the personal story card for each character. Now, so our first ancient one is Azathoth, whatever. Randomly I picked him. Now you have to know who your second ancient one is, and it's Aboth. I picked him at random because of the way the Prelude card setup works. So, you set up like your normal game, okay? You use the personal stories. Now, in the campaign mode, there's a list of every ancient one, and it tells you what Prelude card you have to use. Now, you're going to use 2 Prelude cards per game, okay? And that's why you have to have this expansion for this list. Now, it says that if Azoth is your ancient one you're going against, you have to use the beginning of the end, Prelude. And as you remember now, every Prelude card has 2 options. The first option is always if the ancient one you're using is in play, and the second option is if the ancient one you're using is not in play. Obviously, since this is Azoth's card, we will be using the first option where he's in play. And it basically says, over the past few months, the keystones of civilization have begun to crumble. Ancient libraries have burned to the ground, and many intellectual experts have died under suspicious circumstances. You've seen the clues and woven these events together to see a grand conspiracy. Some hidden society or unimaginable power is surely behind this, and you fear that the worst is yet to come. It says, after resolving setup, place 1 Eldritch token on the green space of the Omen track. I did that. Now, Azoth also makes you do that. So we have 2 Eldritch tokens on the green space. Then the lead investigator discards 1 gate on a space of his choice, or each investigator gains 1 clue and 1 focus. Now, I decided to have each investigator gain 1 clue and 1 focus. So we have our starting gate is in London, and we have a spawn of Seaback there. And then it says, during this game, if Azoth is not the ancient one. Okay, so we won't have to worry about that bottom part. Okay, so we've done our initial setup. I've given each investigator an extra clue and a focus. However, you have to take the Prelude card for the second ancient one, who is Aboth, and you have to do its effects as well. Now, since Aboth is not our ancient one, we will only be doing the second option. And it says right here is if Aboth is not the ancient one, the lead investigator spawns the child of Aboth epic monster on the nearest wilderness space. Which Carson was the nearest the lead investigator, and there were two spaces away, and I just chose to put him up here. Then each investigator gains 1 illness condition and 1 clue. Okay, now we're not going to get rid of this Prelude card because when we move on to the next, if we succeed and move on to the next, we win this and we move on to the next ancient one who's going to be Aboth, this card will come back into play, but we're going to be doing the first option where if Aboth is the ancient one. And then we're going to get another Prelude card, the second, for the next god after that, who is Yig, and do his Prelude card, which is going to be Father of Serpents, and we will do the second option for it. So you're always going to be using 2 Prelude cards, and you're going to be rotating 1 out and 1 in, because after this adventure, we're just going to get rid of the beginning of the end. It's not going to play any more importance. So that's what you're going to do for each game. Now, the big bugaboo is that if you lose 1 game, you lose the campaign. So you could lose the first game and the campaign is over. Or if you're into the 3rd game, let's say you've somehow won twice, and you get to the 2nd game, you win, and then you get to the 3rd game and you lose, the campaign's over. If you lose 1 time, you're out. Now, if you know, if you've watched any of my Eldritch Horror videos, you know I do not have a good winning percentage with this game. As a matter of fact, I have a pretty abysmal winning percentage with this game. This game is criticized because it can turn on a dime for you. I mean, the game either starts out where you're overwhelmed from the get-go and you just have no chance, or you start out and you're playing and you're going along and you know you got things under control, things are looking real good. Then 1 card can come out and change the whole aspect of the game, or you can have one bad roll and it can change the whole aspect of the game, and then you lose within a couple turns. That's a big criticism of this game. I kind of do think it is a legit criticism, because that has happened to me. If you watch my other playthroughs, it's happened to me so many times. And that is one of the faults of this game. Now, I honestly don't think I'm going to make it 6 games. I mean, there's... by past experiences, no hell, no way. But, you know, let's hope I get lucky. Maybe I get focused and play smarter. Maybe things happen and I just get lucky. Now, I may get myself a mulligan. Like, I don't want to get into the campaign, lose the first game right off the bat, and then so not going. So if I lose this first game, or honestly, if I don't make it, like, I'm gonna give myself this mulligan. How about this? During the first 3 games, if I lose, I can continue on. I just have to do it with new investigators. If after the 3rd game, if I lose, the campaign is over. I think that's a fair mulligan to give myself, because like I said, this game is very brutal. So let's see what we have on the board as well. We have the expedition is into Antarctica. Azoth, now his setup is place 1 Eldritch token on the green space of the Omen track. And we've done that. So we have 2 of them on there. And it says when the Omen track advances to the green space of the Omen track, advance Doom by 1 for each Eldritch token on that space. And he starts at 15. So now, every time it gets on there, it's going to move 2 spaces. When 3 mysteries have been solved, investigators win. When Azoth awakens, flip this sheet and resolve the world as devoured effect. As you know, he doesn't have a 4th mystery. He just, if you flip him, you lose. And his first mystery is occult research. The Shan are controlling innocent victims everywhere, using them to call forth Azoth. After an investigator resolves a research encounter, he may spend 1 clue he gained from that encounter and place that clue on this card. At the end of the Mythos phase, if there are clues on this card equal to investigators, solve this mystery. Okay. And who are our investigators? Well, like I said, we have Carson Sinclair. Now he starts off, because of all the different starting conditions, with 3 clue tokens and a focus. He has an action here, perform a trade action, then perform 1 additional action. Whenever you or another investigator on your space performs a prepare for travel action, that investigator gains 1 additional travel ticket of his choice. He came with a lucky cigarette case. Once per round, you may add 1 to the result of 1 die when resolving a test. And he poisoned. When you perform a rest action, you cannot recover health nor sanity. Flip this card. And his personal story. The banker, or the butler, I'm sorry. So it says, you do your best to provide for the Webb children from afar, just as you always have, even as the world is falling apart. Whenever you gain a clue during a research encounter, place 1 Eldritch token on this card. Then if there are 3 Eldritch tokens on this card, discard this card and gain the Loyal Friend reward. When another investigator is defeated or devoured, discard this card and gain the Failed Again consequence. Okay. Then we have Daniela Reyes, who starts off with 3 clue tokens, a resource token, and a focus. Action. You may spend any number of resources to gain an equal number of clues. Once per round, after you perform an acquire assets action or a rest action, you may gain 1 resource. She came with the headstrong condition. Once per round, when you would lose sanity, you may test will. If you pass, prevent that loss up to 2 sanity. And she came with an infection. When you perform a rest action, you cannot recover health. Roll 1 die. On a 4, 5, or 6, discard this card. Then she'll have to test strength. And she's over here in San Francisco. And her personal story for Daniela is, even the smallest force properly applied can change the world. You fix things is what you do. Now it's time to fix things on a much larger scale. When you spend a resource, place 1 resource on this card. Then if there are 8 resources on this card, discard this card and gain the resourceful reward action. At the end of the encounter phase, if there are 10 or more monsters on the game board, discard this card and gain the superstitious consequence. Okay. Then we have Father Mateo. He has 2 clues, 1 focus. He came with the King James Bible. You may re-roll one die when resolving a will test during a combat encounter. When you perform a rest action, recover one additional sanity. He's also diseased. When you perform a rest action, roll one die. On a 5 or 6, discard this card. Alright, his actions: give one of your boon conditions to another investigator on any space. When you close a gate during an otherworld encounter, if you do not have a boon condition, gain one boon condition. Okay, and he's over here in Italy, or Rome, and his is in Nami Patris. As your words guide others through the darkness, too soon you will find your faith will guide you. It says when you give a boon condition to another investigator, place one Eldritch token on this card. Then if there are 3 or more Eldritch tokens on this card, discard this card and gain the Charitable Father reward. At the end of the encounter phase, if there are clues on this game board equal to or greater than Investigators plus 6, discard this card and gain the Undeniable Consequence. Okay, so there are a few other things to go over for the campaign. Says investigators have been defeated or devoured in a previous game or permanently eliminated and cannot be chosen when selecting an investigator. That's common sense. Surviving investigators from the previous game or the chosen investigators begin a new game. Players who were eliminated at the end of the previous game may select new investigators. Right, okay. If you gained your reward or consequence from your personal story, you begin a new game with that card. So you're going to keep that for the whole time being. If you ended the previous game with a dark pact condition or a promise of power condition, you begin the new game with a copy of that. So you don't get to lose it. All cities that have been devastated during previous games begin devastated in the new game. Ignore if you're not playing with the City of Ruins expansion, which I don't, so it could come up. All other components and effects are reset between games. Undefeated investigators do not retain the possessions or skill improvements they acquired during the previous game. Defeated investigators and the possessions are returned to the respective decks and pools. Gates and monsters do not remain on the game board, etc. So you're just basically clearing everything away. The only thing you're basically keeping is your personal story, your dark pact, and promise of power. Everything else goes away at the end of the game. And that's how the campaign's going to work. So, Carson Sinclair, Daniela Reyes, and Father Mateo. So that's what we got. So, we're going to get started. And like I said, I hope to at least make a sport of it. And we'll see how we go. So I hope to see you then. Until then, have fun.